going to try to respect each other's boundaries.
What?
Tonight, we've also got a guest with us, David. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm David.
What's up, David?
How many kids do you have, David?
None, at least not at the moment. My wife is pregnant, and she should be delivering any day now.
That's great. Super.
Great.
Who would like to go first? Anyone? Anyone?
I'll go.
Perfect. Todd? Yes.
My daughter and I went to the mall, and she said she wanted to take the stairs to the second level. And I said, I don't trust stairs because they're always up to something.
Todd, I'm sorry that happened. I encourage you to try to resist the urge to make jokes like that.
My turn? Okay. Can I go? Okay. Yesterday, actually, my daughter got home and she asked me how my day was. And I said, well, a guy tried to sell me a coffin, but that's the last thing I need.
Oh, Jerry, that joke was dead on arrival.
Because it's the last thing I need.
David, how about you?
Oh, I didn't say
This is a
anything.
safe zone. Just jump on in.
Yeah, I guess I'm just scared of being a dad. I'm afraid I'm gonna start telling bad jokes just like my dad.
Well, it might be in our nature. We can fight against it.
Hey, speaking of nature, I tried to catch some fog yesterday. I missed. M-I-S-T.
You're a monster. This is where the boundary is.
I'm done.
This is where you are.
Hello? Really? Okay, yeah, no. Yeah, I'll be right there. That was Julie. Her water just broke. I guess the baby finally ran out of womb. I'm gonna be a dad.
Don't you think you should be going?
Oh, yeah.
So I told my wife she drew her eyebrows too high. She seemed surprised.
Good morning, everyone. Let's stand and worship this morning. Happy Father's Day. We have a story of grace. We have an anthem of hope. We are received and to praise. We are redeemed and restored. You are the great liberator. You ransom us for our shame. Now by the blood of the Savior, everything broken will change. Oh, this will be my day of victory. My chains are gone. Now I am free indeed. Every debt is paid by amazing grace. All that's left is to celebrate. Your love has come. I'm free indeed. My jubilee has come. No longer slaves to the past. This is the year of the Lord. Here at the foot of the cross, we are outsiders no more. You made a way through the darkness into your marvelous light. You broke the bondages that held us, and now we are fully alive. Oh, this will be my day of victory. My chains are gone. Now I am free indeed. Every debt is paid by amazing grace. All that's left is to celebrate. Your love has come. walls of my prison. You brought me back from the grave. You turned my mourning to dancing. Into the night I proclaim, oh, this will be my day of victory. My chains are gone. Now I am free indeed. And my day of victory. My chains are gone. Now I am free indeed. Every debt is paid by amazing grace. All that's left is to celebrate. Your love has come. I'm free indeed. My jubilee has come.
That song will wake you up if you weren't already awake, but it is a day of victory, and we believe that with God, everything is possible. It's one of our core values. We know that He is the I am, and so He makes what seems impossible, He makes it possible. And so that is one of the things that we believe, even when life doesn't make sense or when it's not going the way that we planned, everything is possible with Him. And so if you would like this shirt or one of our other core value shirts, we have them available right back here. Anna will be back there after service, and you can grab one of these. But it's just one of those things that guides us, and so we just want to keep it in the forefront of our minds. We're going to keep worshiping, but I want to remind you that we have small groups starting Tuesday and Thursday this week at 6, and then our recovery ministry is Friday night at 7, and we would love for you to join any of those. But let's keep on worshiping.
When you move, darkness runs for cover. And when you move, no one's turned away. 'Cause where you are, fear turns into praises. And where you are, no hearts left unchanged. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. When you move, the outcast finds a family. And when you move, an orphan finds a home. Lord, here we are. Oh, teach us to love mercy. Oh, and with humble hearts, we bow down at your throne. Yes, oh, so come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. King of all come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Lord, lead us back to you. Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest. And without you, I'd fall apart. You're the one who guides my heart. Lord, I need you, oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Oh, your all's voices sound beautiful this morning. Sin runs deep, your grace is more. Where grace is found is where you are. Oh, and where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Yeah. Oh, Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh, God, how I need you. Teach my song to rise to you. When temptation comes my way, and when I cannot stand, I fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. And Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you.
Amen. Let's pray together before we get to the message. God, thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity we have to meet together, many of us here live and in person. I'm so thankful for those who have joined us online as well, who for whatever reason are unable or cannot be with us. Hey, God, this is a day where we come to celebrate you. In this country, it is also a day when we recognize fathers, and I want to ask that you would be especially near and close and evident and obvious with those who are hurting today, because this is the first Father's Day they've spent without their dad. And I know it's got to be an incredibly difficult time, but we're thankful that even in the middle of all that we can come together as a family and do our very best to encourage each other. God, for those who have come into this place with a deep, deep knowledge that they need you, and that song has resonated in their hearts today, I pray that they would be willing to be quiet before you and experience you and see you in a very real way. We know that you're near to us when we draw near to you. And Father, for those who just came here for whatever reason, because it's Sunday, they're curious, or just trying to figure out what it is they believe, we're also blessed to have them here. And whatever step that they're taking on their journeys today, God, I pray that today would be a step that we would be able to celebrate with them. Maybe today they're just taking a step for the very first time in their lives to consider that they might desire to know you the way you know them. Or maybe they're ready to take that next step in faith and say yes to you. Whatever it is, anything in between, God, I pray that we would be able to be a church family who can recognize and celebrate steps even when we're not all there, because the truth is none of us has arrived. Lord, we love you. We thank you for this day. Thank you for being the great Father and the only perfect Father that we've ever had. In Jesus' name, amen. Please be seated. Thank you for being here, being a part, spending some time. If you're new to us, if you're visiting for the first time, we do hope that you've been made to feel welcome. If you're listening online for the first time, welcome to the Bridge. We're glad that you're here as well. I know that my parents are watching and online, and they're not worshiping in live in person with their church family yet, so happy Father's Day, Daddy. I love you. I got to see him last week. They came up for a graduation thing we were having with our kids, so we spent some time with them. And after the graduation deal was over, we all went out to eat, and my dad said, by the way, good talk this morning. I'm like, well, thanks, Dad. You know, kind of get that affirmation. I still need that. He said, but I want to help you with your story. And if you were here last week, I got in a little trouble for standing up in front of a bunch of adults and telling a mildly inappropriate joke when I was a kid. Didn't understand the punchline. You can go back and listen to that. Later, my dad said, no, most of all of it was right, but I did not discipline you the way you made it sound, and the people in your church family are going to not even want me around because they're going to think I've been a bad dad to you. So I'm looking across the table at my son. I'm like, well, it's almost like he kind of caught me in a lie, but I mean, I was 7. I was trying to tell the story as accurately as I could. So I looked at Dad, so I didn't mean to imply that. I'm sorry about that. I looked at my son and said, hey, I didn't mean to make you feel bad about your granddad. And my dad said, oh, no, it wasn't a big deal. Every other time that did happen, but on that particular day, I showed mercy. Every other time, though, you would have been right. So sorry, Dad, I didn't mean to get that out of line. That particular day, apparently, he showed mercy. So the story was kind of right, kind of not, but it's been a long time. So, but dads are incredibly important to us, and some of you had dads that modeled the love of Jesus. Many of you had to figure out the love of Jesus on your own. For whatever reason, your dad just wasn't there or wasn't capable or chose not to show that to you. So know there are a lot of different emotions, and then, of course, like we all know, we have friends and family, even some of my buddies here in this room right now that are spending their first Father's Day without their dad. So I know it's a hard time. So hopefully we can celebrate what we do have to celebrate, what we can hold on to, and thank you, dads, for making a difference in our lives. We're going to continue with the series Untamed that we're in, and nothing really says dads like a donut. And when my kids were young enough in elementary school that they had those events where dads would get around their kids, it was always donuts with Dad. I don't really know why. I guess it sounds better than muffins with Dad, but donuts with Dad was always a thing. And if you're a grown man in here that had kids, you know, that relatively, recently in the last 20 years or so, you probably know the construction paper tie. Am I alone? Have one of those? I kept several of them. I don't know that I kept all of them, but have the little ties, the whole bit, the memory with the kid. But donuts with Dad is kind of a thing. And the last couple of weeks, we've compared our tongues, our mouths, to some regular items that we're all familiar with, hoping that, give us some staying power as far as the messages that we've been able to read here in God's Word. First was a lawnmower, a little bit destructive. Last week was the trash can, a little bit smelly. So we're going to lighten up a little bit since it is a holiday and compare our mouths, compare our tongues to a donut. Now, the interesting thing about a donut, and these are a bit small, but I just didn't want to waste money, honestly, but the interesting thing about a donut is it's the only real thing that we're okay having a hole in. Like, there's a hole in your pants, it's not okay. There's a hole in your shoes, it's not okay. A hole in your roof, it's not okay. And most foods, it's not okay either. You go order a cheeseburger for lunch today, if there's a hole in the middle, you're going to send it back. If there is a hole in your steak, it's going back. You get a chicken sandwich, there's a big hole in the middle, it's going back. But the donut, it's okay. We're okay with not getting all that we paid for. We're okay with there being a hole in the center because it just tastes so good going in. And there's so much sugar, and there's such a high that we get when we eat this. This sugar high, this sugar rush takes us to a, man, that's amazing kind of place. And we're okay with the fact that it's really incomplete. If you share your plan for anything and someone says, okay, but there's a hole in your plan here. Like there's a problem. There's something not right. But the hole in the donut seems to be perfectly fine. And our mouths, our tongues, have a tendency to imitate donuts. They can produce words that immediately make us feel better. They can produce words and phrases that immediately make us feel like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. That's what I was looking for. To the point where just as people are driving up and down in front of Krispy Kreme, waiting on that hot sign out there, there are times when we're just waiting to hear those words or those phrases from someone, a friend, a spouse, a child, a parent, whatever the word is. We're so wanting to hear it. But then once we hear it, after a moment, that rush just becomes a crash, and we realize they're empty. We realize they're hollow, and there's not a whole lot of substance behind it. And then many times, those are our words. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 12, everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word that has been spoken. Every word that he speaks, every word that she speaks, every word that we speak that's empty, he says we're going to have to give an account for those words. And you and I have conversations that are filled with empty words, that are filled with junk, that really have no substance, no staying power, and literally have a hole in the middle. Like it's missing something. Those are our conversations. We have problems controlling our tongues, and we have problems producing things that actually matter. James chapter 3, the verse that we read the last couple of weeks, verse 8, says, no man can tame the tongue. We praise the Lord with it, and we curse men who are made in God's likeness with it. Praising and cursing come out of the same mouth. These things should not be. That's verse 10 at the end there. So what are some potentially sweet but very hollow words and phrases that you and I come in contact with? Well, there is, I'll never do it again, I promise. There is, I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That's not what I intended. There are, yeah, I'll be there. You can count on me. There are phrases like, I've learned my lesson. I'm going to do it differently the next time. And we've all heard those things from people that we care about. And after a while, we hear those things and we think that's exactly what we want to hear, because in the beginning, it was like a donut. It was like, finally. And then over time, you realize this is hollow. It's empty. It doesn't really mean anything. And if we allow ourselves to be really honest and vulnerable, there are a lot of people around us that could say the same thing about words that we've spoken at some point in time as well. Empty and hollow. James chapter 2, verse 14 says, what good is it, brothers, if someone says he has faith, but does not have works? In other words, what good is the donut without the hole? What good is all this, the phrases and the words and the things that you're producing here that make me feel a certain way, but I have a hard time believing it? They don't go together. There's something that is missing. So what do we do about it? How do we keep our words, how do we keep our tongue from becoming empty like a donut? Well, what is missing, I think, is spelled out in 1 John 3:18. He says, let us not love in word or speech, but in deed and truth. Doesn't mean just don't love at all. He just says love is actually going to be shown, not just with what you say, but how you live, how it's backed up, what accompanies the actual words. Because we're all guilty of saying stuff and not following through. When our kids were a lot younger, I think 3 and 5, 4 and 6, somewhere in there, we were heading out to a wedding, about a 5 or 6 hour drive. We were all feeling it. And at some point in the journey, my son, who was normally very quiet and very compliant, began to whine and began to complain. And I guess it makes it worse when your kid's not normally that way, that you're like, what in the world's going on? Why are you complaining? You don't normally complain. And he just started yakking and yakking and yakking. He was still in his car seat, but he was old enough where it was facing forward. So I'm looking up at him in the rearview mirror, just saying, dude, that's enough. That is enough. and it wasn't hitting it. And I said, I guess I just went all dad. And I said, if you don't stop talking, if you don't stop complaining, I'm going to stop right here, pull over on the highway, and you and I are going to deal with it in the back. Like the words came out. I didn't plan it, it just came out. And about 10 seconds later, he said something again. And I looked over at my wife and thought, what do we do now? Like, hey, I just said that if you do this again, this will happen. And he just did it again. And she just looked like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. So I just pulled the car over a little bit abruptly, slammed on the brakes, threw it into park. Thought, well, I did not plan on this. So I get out of the car carefully, and I got my son out, and I brought him around back, and I just knelt down, took a knee near him, and looked at him and got really quiet for a moment. I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't think he was going to push me on it, and he sure didn't think I was going to make good on it. So we're just sitting there looking at each other like, well, like we are in a pickle here. Because I just said, we're pulling over, and I'm handling this, and you need to work up some daddy's handled it kind of thing really fast, because I said I was going to do this, and I got two ladies in the car probably taking bets on what's daddy going to do out back. So I made good on my promise. I didn't want to. I made good on my promise. I got him back in his seat, and we drove off, and the whole car just this silent, like, what just happened in our family kind of moment. But it was that time when I knew if I didn't do what I said I was going to do then my word is at stake. And he's young, and he's impressionable still, obviously. And I wanted him to know when Dad says don't, then you don't. There's not going to be a, hey, back and forth, or a maybe, or a, well, silly Dad. He made a weird statement like, no, I said it, and I'm going to do something about it. And we so often are guilty of just driving down the road and things get stressful, and we just blurt out words and promises and phrases, and they don't match our actions. We don't back them up at all, and ultimately, they're pretty empty. And over time, our mom who's heard, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again, so goes, you know what, I'm done with that. Or our spouse who hears us say, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, I promise I'm going to, it just gets old. And then we begin to look around and think, maybe I can say it differently this time, and that's not the answer. So let's go through a few things that might help us. One, prove what you believe with works, not words. Prove what it is you believe, you say you value with works, not just with words. The Bible doesn't say you reap what you speak. He says you reap what you sow. The consequences are going to be because of the actions, not just your words. You can't talk your way out of everything. So sometimes when we're staring in front of someone that we've heard or we're in a weird spot with, we feel like, I'm not getting it right. Like, I've said I'm sorry, and they still look mad. Like, what's going on? I've said I won't do it again, and they don't seem happy. It's not about being more persuasive with our words. It's about being more persuasive with our actions and how we demonstrate, yes, this is what I believe. Yes, this is what I'm going to do as a result of it. In Matthew chapter 5, he wrote that Jesus gave a quote that said, let your yes mean yes, and your no mean no. Anything more is from the evil one. Jesus said, I don't want to hear, I promise on this, I swear on this, no, just if you say yes, then you better mean yes. If you say no, you better mean no. Just let it be. We don't have to give all these qualifiers. We don't have to add a paragraph of adjectives and adverbs. Let's just do what we say we're going to do, and let's don't do what we say we're not going to do. Now, words reveal the heart. What we speak out of the overflow of the heart. We looked at that the last couple of weeks. But works actually produce trust. The words reveal, but the works produce that trust that we desperately need in our relationships. I mean, good intentions are fine, but intentions are not a good foundation for building anything, relationship, or anything in between. You and I can go to the bank tomorrow and say, I need a loan. And they'll say, well, here's the deal. Here's the situation. Would you sign this? And you say, well, I have every intention of paying all of my bills on time. Well, okay, but I need you to sign this saying you're going to do this. Here is the contract. Listen, I promise I'm going to do my very best to make all of my payments. Intentions just don't work. They look at you and say, that's fine. I know you probably intend on it, but we need to see some action. And you and I so flippantly say, I love you, but then we disrespect and we show no honor. We're not loyal to someone. We say, you can count on me, and then we go ahead and might as well start typing up that, sorry, I missed your deal. Sorry, I didn't show up at the thing. I meant to, late at work, busy, forgot, overslept, like whatever it is. But the bottom line is we didn't do what we say that we were going to do. We didn't follow through. Prove what you believe with works, not words. Secondly, speak like a person who has God's attention. Speak like someone who has his attention, who has his ear. Because we all know that we speak differently when different people come into the room. We can have one conversation, and then that person comes walking in, and the words change, the way we tell a story changes. I don't care how cool you are. You've at least once walked into a conversation or into a crowd or a room, and everybody got really quiet. And no matter how secure you claim to be, it's like, okay, what were you talking about? Who were you talking about? Why did it change when I came in? And not because I'm any better than anyone else, but just because of the title and my job, I kill lots of conversations when I go into places, and everybody changes the way they speak, or they apologize. They'll say poop, and they go, sorry, Chad. Like, okay, I mean, I get it. Thank you for qualifying it and giving me the G rating. I appreciate that. Everything changes. And you're insecure. You think maybe they're talking about you or they're complaining about you, and you have all of those kinds of thoughts. The truth is, God is in heaven, and we're here on earth, and he gets it all, and he's able to quiet the sounds of heaven enough to pay attention to what we speak. And when we speak, we need to realize that we have God's ear. We've got his attention. It's as if he's pulling up a chair and saying, I want to know what you have to say today. I want to know how this conversation is going to go. I'm going to lean in on that. Can I look at your phone while you text? I want to know what you're going to post. I want to know how you're going to communicate. Because I'm interested in you. I love you. I want to know. And Proverbs tells us what God actually values. It says in chapter 12, verse 22, God can't stomach liars. He loves the company of those who keep their word. God values people who keep their word, and his favor, his blessing is with them. When you keep your word, you're honoring not just that person, but you're honoring God. He says, I'm paying attention, and I'm going to give you favor in this moment because this is what I value, but I can't stomach lies. And if I have to hear another one of my kids lie to his parent about what he's done, or lie to his spouse about what he's done, or lie to his parent about what he intends to do, or lie to his friend about where he's been, it just turns my stomach, God says. I cannot stomach the lies. When we know other people are listening, it changes things. And you and I might do well every conversation to say, okay, we've got another visitor in the conversation. God himself just walked into the room. Now, if you're like me and you take stuff like this seriously, it makes you never want to talk again. Like, you're just afraid to say anything because you don't want to, in many ways, upset the stomach of God. Like, I don't want God to get nauseated when he listens to me speak. But it's not that I should be quiet all the time. My wife may need still to hear, I'm sorry, I should have never said that. Or my friend may need to hear, I'm sorry, I should never have promised to be there at that thing if I wasn't intending on doing it. Maybe they still need to hear those words. But I just might need some help with the hard words. I might need to have to reach out to someone and say, this is a chronic problem for me. I keep getting in this situation, and my heart is broken over. I still say I'm sorry, but I'm not doing a good job not doing it again. So can you help me? Can you help keep me accountable? Why don't you just reach out to me, ask me how I'm doing, or if it's a follower of Jesus and you're comfortable enough doing it, say, would you please pray that I can have the strength, I can have the self-control to be able to work through this because I'm just not doing very well here. I need some help with the hard stuff. Or maybe here is what I want to do. Here is something I've said I'm going to be. What are the small steps I need to take to get there? If I tell my kids, I'm sorry I let you down, I will never do that again. I need to set some things in place to keep me from ever being in that situation again where I might upset them. I might miss their event or forget about their birthday or their game or whatever it is. Just set some things in place and do some small things along the way so I don't have to find myself back in front of them taking a knee saying, I'm sorry I let you down. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I should never have said that. I'm sorry I embarrassed you like that. I'm sorry I forgot. Whatever the phrase is that continues to creep up and haunt us. Speak like a person who has God's attention. And then third, treat your words like contracts. You and I would do well to treat our words, the things we say, the phrases we use, like they're contracts, promises, vows, like an oath. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Because how differently would it be if someone followed you around and recorded everything you said to make sure that you held up your end of the bargain? Imagine how calculated you would be. Your friend says, oh, by the way, what do you feel about so-and-so? Well, on the record, I feel that like you would stop and talk so slowly, making sure you calculated every single word and you were not misinterpreted. Like you would work so hard, but none of us lives that way. We're just in a crowd, someone has a trigger word and blah, blah, blah. We just start bubbling up all sorts of stuff that we don't know what we're talking about. Things that we're never going to keep. We say, oh, I'll do that. Yeah, that'd be great. I love those people who say, hey, I've missed you. We should do coffee. You just want to go, really? How about in 5 minutes? Oh, no, they don't mean that. Like, no. Just go ahead and call them out on it. Yeah, I've missed you. How long have I been gone? Okay, yeah, we just say stuff. We don't know. I want to make you feel good. That's a nice dress. Is it really? How's it different than what I wore? I don't know. We just talk. We just say things. And how different would it be if we treated all of our words and phrases like a vow, a contract, like an oath? It would change things. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 24 reminds us, whatever your tongue utters, you must be careful to do, just as you freely vowed to the Lord your God with your own mouth. He says, whatever comes out, it's on you. You are responsible for the stuff that comes out of your mouth. No matter how sweet it is, the follow-up is on you. No matter what your intentions were, you've got to be willing to do something about it. There has to be some action that accompanies it. But you and I have spoken out in emotion so many times, and we've broken so many promises that oftentimes when we speak, people don't put much stock in our words. They've heard it before. They've been there. They know maybe we had good intentions. We just didn't follow through. And they've started rolling their eyes thinking, okay, we'll see. We'll see. Well, there was a time in history when Israel was at war with another group of people. We called them, or refer to them as the Ammonites. And the people of God, specifically in a place called Gilead, not important to remember that place, but people of Gilead needed help in fighting. So the elders of the tribe went to a man named Jephthah, and they said, Jephthah, we need help. We've got these Ammonites here who are causing all sorts of problems, and we need help fighting, and we cannot defeat them on our own. We need you. You're a mighty warrior. You're young. You're strong. You're powerful. You've got a reputation. We need you to lead our troops. So Jephthah began to think about the opportunity there, surveyed his own life. He's a relatively young man with a small family, and he said, okay, I'll do this. And in Judges chapter 11, verse 30, before he went off to lead the people, it says, and Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. He said, okay, God, I got to do this. I need help. I need you to speak to me. I need you to empower me. I need you to strengthen me and strengthen all of my men. And if we're able to do this, in fact, when we're able to win this thing, I am going to sacrifice to you whatever comes out of my house when I'm on my way home in victory. Jephthah leads the men off in a devastating rout of the Ammonites, and then they return home as warriors, as victors. And I don't know how much he was thinking about what was about to happen. But chapter 11, verse 34 says, when Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing? So he comes home victorious, having shared this vow to the Lord, and his only child, his daughter, comes dancing, so happy that her dad has come home. And she's running up the driveway, screaming his name, dancing around, celebrating. And in his heart, in his mind, he recalls his vow. And in verse 35, it says, when he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, oh, no, my daughter. You have brought me down, and I am devastated. I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break. So here he is, home, experiencing God's power and God's favor in this moment. And now he has vowed to sacrifice anything that comes out of his house, and his daughter comes out and meets him. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he was hoping his cat would come out. I don't know if he was just not thinking at all. But he said, God, this is what I'm going to do. And his daughter came to meet him. Now, if you do a deep dive, because you don't read something like this and go, surely I didn't understand that correctly. So you do a deep dive and some debate on what it meant when he said sacrifice. Did he mean just figuratively a sacrificial offering to the Lord? Was it just, I'm dedicating her to the Lord's service? We'll never know. It's a tragic thing either way, because either his daughter was sent off and serving in the presence of the Lord away from her family for the rest of her life, or she lost her life there as a result. But what we do know is this. One, Jephthah spoke without putting thought into his words. He was just speaking. Whatever was in his mind just came out his mouth. It's mostly a male condition that many of us have. And all the women in the room said, amen. Okay. Wow, I didn't have to twist your arm on that one. But it's a male thing at times. Whatever's in our mind comes out our mouth. And Jephthah was just thinking it, needed it, and just said it. We know that. But two, there's something positive here. Jephthah took his promises so seriously that even a foolish vow he would make right before the Lord. Now, I wish someone could have said, Jephthah, what are you about to say to God? And stopped him there. But he made the vow. But what we do see is someone who's so committed to keeping his word, especially his word to God, that he was willing to do whatever it took to fulfill that vow. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 2 says, do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty in your heart to utter anything before God. God is in heaven and you are on earth, so let your words be few. When you make a vow to God, delay not its fulfillment, for God has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill what you have vowed. It is better not to make a vow than to make it and not fulfill it. He says, you need to speak less. Let your words be few, because the more you talk, the more you get yourself into trouble. It's better to not even make a promise than just to say something you're not going to be able to follow through with. I was talking to my wife about these verses yesterday, and she asked me if I'd read it in one of the paraphrases that we have, and call it a translation, but it's really a paraphrase called The Message. And she read it out to me off of her phone, and I thought, that's awesome. I love some of the phrasing, especially the last one, and I want to read that to you. Same verses, just from The Message. He says, don't shoot off your mouth or speak before you think. When you tell God you'll do something, do it now. God takes no pleasure in foolish gabble. Vow it and then do it. Far better not to vow in the first place than to vow and not pay up. And then the last phrase I love, don't let your mouth make a total sinner of you. Like, don't let your mouth be so powerful to guide you to the point where it makes a total sinner of you. Our mouths are so powerful. Now, God is the God of a promise, and his people should be known as people who keep their promises. But yet we are far more known for the promises we break than the promises that we keep. And as his people, we should carefully consider everything that's about to come out of our mouth. No matter how impressive or sweet it may seem like it's going to go down, if it's hollow, we just don't need to say it at all. Now, I mentioned earlier about pulling over the car with my son when he was younger. This wasn't just about me warning my son, saying, when I say don't, then there will be consequences. This was also about me telling him, and in the future, you need to understand, when I tell you I'll be at your game, I'll be there. And in the future, when you have hard times and you make bad mistakes, I'm going to forgive you, and I will not look at you any differently. You're my son, and I love you. And one of these days, if I'm able to help you out and you need me, I will be there. It wasn't just about me saying I'm going to keep my word in all the scary times. It was I'm going to keep my word in all the times. And I hope I get to keep more good promises than I do hard promises. And when you need me, if there's still breath in me, I will be there for you. But I had to teach it early on. And I didn't have to teach that lesson many times. But now he knows that not only will God or will my Father bring down discipline when he says he's going to, but he will also bring a blessing when he says he's going to. He will also be faithful when he says he's going to. And when God looks at us, he's told us, here's what I don't want you to do. I'm giving you these commandments, the thou shalt nots that we love to harp on. But he's also given us a lot of thou shalts. If you'll call on me with a pure and clean heart, I'll be there. If you'll draw near to me, I'll draw near to you. I'll never leave you, and I'll never forsake you. And God has made good on every one of those promises. He even said, if you believe in your heart that I am the Son of God, you're going to find salvation. That's a great, great promise. It wasn't just don't go there, don't go there, don't go there, don't do that. It was also, and I'll never leave you. Just as you can trust me to bring discipline, you can trust me to bring a blessing as well. And many of the songs we have in our Bible are actually prayers, and one of those is in Psalm 19. I feel like today would be a great way for us to close out in prayer together. I know this is going to be very strange for those of us in this room, but I want you to keep your eyes open. We're going to read this together and pray together. It's going to reset some of your faith. Like, I can't pray with my eyes open. Well, we're going to today, and we're going to pray together corporately because I feel like this is a great way for us to ask God to help us to apply this. Not what the minister has said, but what God has promised in his word. In Psalm chapter 19, verse 14, there's a phrase. I want this to be our prayer, and we'll read this verse together and then say amen together. Psalm 19:14. Would you join me in praying this out loud? May these words of my mouth and this meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Thank you guys for being here with us today, for joining us, for all those who were just stuck and I need to close my eyes and go ahead. Amen. Now we're good. We're not going to be taking up the offering today. The buckets will be out on your way out the doors. Thank you guys for being so faithful to give, especially through all this distancing. It's been strange. You have to wonder if anyone's going to be back, if we can even pay our bills, but you guys have been awesome, and you've taken great, great care of the resources God has given you, and we're very thankful for that. I do want to remind you, as you leave, if you like your Core Value t-shirt on your left, you can get those. This week we have Tuesday and Thursday night small groups here in the lobby, and then Friday night our RU small group in the lobby as well. We encourage you to be a part, to connect with other people. We'd love to have you a part of our church family if you're looking for a church family. And then the last thing is next week is Baptism Sunday. If you're a follower of Jesus and have never made that step, maybe it was something you were working out over this pandemic and over the distancing time, and you felt like, man, whenever we get back and going, that's something I need to do. Well, our next baptism will be Sunday. So if you're a Christian and you've never taken that step, if you said yes to Jesus but never gone public with it, we'd love to help you do that. So after the service, if you'll find me in the lobby, Suzanne in the lobby, or Anna as well, we'd love to be able to give you information, connect with you, give you some details on the actual day so that we can celebrate with you. We're excited about doing that together as a family. Well, let's stand and have one more song we sing together. We hope you have an amazing Father's Day. Make that phone call today for those of you who still have your dads around and able to celebrate with them, and we hope you have an awesome week. Thank you.
The splendor of a king, clothed in majesty, all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, trembles at his voice, trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Oh, see how great is our God. Age to age we stand, is our God. Oh, see how great is our God. Amen. Everyone have a blessed rest of your Sunday. Happy Father's Day.